Now I'd like to introduce Barbara, our speaker for today. So Barbara has been volunteering for SFVBO for a couple years now, and she's been a really great volunteer and has gotten really involved in many different aspects of our work. She's also planning to join the SFVBO board, and we're hoping to welcome her onto our board next month. And since she's been a volunteer, she's also been a really great fundraiser and donor for us. So it's been great to have her, and she is really interested in sharing her knowledge and sharing the things that she's learned since retiring. So Barbara used to have a really high-powered career in internet and search engine marketing. She was running her own company, webmama.com, for about 20 years. And now that she's retired, you know, she's keeping herself busy with birding, self-teaching on photography and birding using eBird. But you can really see how much she loves transmitting knowledge, because she not only gives lectures to kids and college students to teach them how to use this, but she was really excited about this opportunity to present virtually to folks who might be interested in eBird or just want to see what's possible.
So today we're going to talk about counting birds for science. We're going to specifically focus a little bit on the data part. We're going to focus a lot on the app part. We're going to have a lot of fun, so get ready for a bit of a rock and roll ride as we go through some of the animation behind what you can do with the data. But here we go. And you're in luck, because even in these challenging times, you all have a particular interest in birds or you wouldn't be here. And there are birds in our neighborhood. I can actually hear them out my window right now. I was just talking, who was it else who's here in Menlo Park, who just saw the warbling vireo just like I did today, you know, and they have quite the sound when they're calling. And there's an easy way for you to help scientists, and that scientists need our help, because scientists cannot see or hear every single bird in the world. And, well, we might not be able to either, but there are a lot of people out there helping the scientists, and we're going to talk about some of those numbers in a minute. But, you know, I can't tell you everything about eBird, so I'm going to get a little help here, and we're going to listen to some videos. So let's go listen to these people about what they have to say about eBird.
eBird changed everything about how I do birding. I tell people it's an online database, a repository for bird sightings from around the world.
It's all free and open access.
I like the fact that I can have all the birds from our different travels in one place.
It allows me to have my live list.
And it's just an amazing thing, not just for bird nerds like myself, but anybody. Anyone can use eBird. Everyone is capable.
I like to contribute to science.
It will give us better insights about our own birds in our own backyard.
Anybody can contribute, and it has value.
So for me, it's perfect. Just go for it.
So I think that helped really explain better than I can about why you would want to use eBird. So according to the observations of over 500,000 eBird participants, we're going to try a poll here. How many species do you think have been recorded by eBird observers? We've got, I'm going to read them out: 5,337, 87, 49, 91, 14, or 10,508. That's, just want to let you know, this is just eBird participants. How many do you think, species-wise, they have seen in the world? So you should see a poll pop up in front of you, and you should be able to select one if you're in a circumstance where you can do that. You know, just so that you know, I think in the world, they're now saying there's about, what, 10,000 to 11,000 species out there? Seems to change all the time. So it looks like everybody thinks, you know, on average, but it looks like, just so that you know, that we're going to share the results, and the results say, yes, that about, most of you think that it's, you know, the 9,000 to 10,000 range. You're right. Can we get ditch the poll? How many species have been recorded in the world by eBird participants? Yes. That was right. About 10,500 species. So the second poll, I'm looking for, in which country have the most species been observed and recorded? And this is where we get into the, in which, so United States, India, Colombia, Peru. Which country have the most species been observed and recorded by eBird participants? That doesn't mean where the most eBird participants have gone, because that's United States. Because it started here, and that's where the most, and I think I've got that on a slide somewhere as to where the most eBird participants are. But where are the most species been seen by eBird participants? We'll think Colombia or the United States. Let's see, the answer is, oh, gotta go back. Colombia is right, and then it's Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, and India. So this follows pretty close to where the most species are in the world in general. So this kind of gives me my want to go to list one day when we can travel again. So this slide is me. It's a very pathetic life list in my opinion, but then I just stopped working, so I hope to get there. The biggest reason I put this up, and I'll get rid of this poll again, the biggest reason I put this up here was to show you a very important thing about eBird, is I didn't start using this app until 2014, which put me, I don't know, relatively early on, but you could start today and start building a list today and take information from years and years and years ago from that book, that physical book that you have, that you've been creating, and enter the information, historical information in. It doesn't have to be from today forward. So I went in and over time have re-entered all my historical data. So, and what that gives me is, and we can look at this, I'm willing to stick around at the end of this presentation and go through some of this data with you a bit more in detail if anybody's interested. But I've submitted information back to from 1990 forward, which is when I really started to keep track in a book of birds that I had seen. Anyways, this is me. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that data got in. But first, let's talk about the app. So today, some of you may be using the app, some of you may be using a book. Well, I was at the Palo Alto Baylands, which is within my 5-mile neighborhood radius, right on the edge, which is lovely. And I was walking around and I saw a whole bunch of birds, and this may be what you look like with a notebook. I had my phone with me and I started a checklist. So I opened up my phone, I started a checklist. When you start using eBird, you have to do a few things. You have to tell it where you are. Now the good news is it actually tells you where you are as well. So you can know that you're standing in, somewhere like Charleston Slough at the end of San Antonio Road, and it sort of gives you an idea of the fact that you're sitting in a really important place called a hotspot. And then on the second thing is you go in, you start entering what you saw. And I'm going to show you one of the most important things about eBird, and this is the reason to take a very short class in how to use it, is how to enter what you saw. Because when you're using your notepad, you know to put little squiggle marks every time you see one and then go back and count it later. And you can still do this. You can still use your notepad, and then when you get back to wherever your computer is, you can, or you've got your phone at home when you're at home, you can then do it then. But when you're in the field, there are 4 different ways that you can enter. And we'll talk about those in just a quick sec. But when you're done, what you end up with in the field is a list of all of what you saw, and it will calculate the amount of time that you were out there, and the distance that you walked, and the path that you walked, and how many you saw. So it knows you were walking, it knows how long you were out there, it knows where you went, how many you saw, and up it goes. And then after you've done this, you can go back and you can upload photographs, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and you can upload audio and any commentary. But I want to show you just the most amazing ways that you can enter. When I first started using eBird, I thought there was only one way to do this, which was to type in the name of the bird, common names, English common names, and then a screen would open, and then I'd put in a number, and then I'd close the screen, and it would be in, and I'd do that every single time I saw a bunch of them. Well, if you do that, there's a couple of other ways, but you get to the fourth one, and this is why you take these short courses, and when this gets posted to you guys in your thank you email, there will be a set of references, and one of those references is a free short course to take on how to use eBird. I highly recommend it. The fastest way to do it is in the, back up, in the search area up there. All you do is you type the number that you saw, and then you type in for barn swallow, you would put BASW. That's the 4-letter, what do they call it? The short code for the bird. Or you would type in 1 BARN, and it would fill it in for you because it knows it's a barn swallow. And then the next time you see like 4 of them, then you type in 4 BARN, and it knows it's a barn swallow, and it adds it to the one you already have, and you end up with 5 in your list. So you get used to how you want to enter the birds, but it's highly intuitive. It takes practice and using it. So there's lots of different ways to enter the data. So the other way is to use your notepad and go back to your desktop, go back to your computer, and enter it through the computer system, which looks like what you're seeing on the right. And you're using browser-based this way, and it gives you the frequent list. So again, you bring up this hotspot, Charleston Slough, and it'll give you what's usually seen there. And the reason it knows what's usually seen there is because 154 people entered checklists on that day over the course of the last, maybe 3 years or something. It knows exactly what you're supposed to be seeing that day. eBird will flag you if it thinks you're entering something that you shouldn't be seeing. It's really, and if you try to enter something that you absolutely should not see, like highly rare, like I went and saw the green-winged teal, the green-winged teal Eurasian the other day, and it wouldn't let me enter it without a comment, and then I had to put a photo in. So it flags you if you just aren't supposed to be seeing this thing. So, which is pretty neat. But there are things that you need to know. You need to know, whether you were there on purpose. Like you can tell it that you were walking down the street and you saw a bird, but you weren't bird watching on purpose. It was just an incidental. Like if you were driving and you saw a hawk, on the phone pole, they want to know that you just saw it incidentally and it wasn't on purpose, but you can certainly report it. Because the whole goal that Cornell's lab of ornithology wants is they want as much data as possible. You leave it up to them to worry about the noise, to worry about the data that's sort of not quite right, or you just get something a little wrong. You don't have to worry about that. Get it wrong. They'd rather it was wrong than not get the data at all. Don't worry about being wrong, because they'll filter that out. They have enough information to filter out your mistakes, because we're all going to make mistakes. And in San Mateo County, they have one person that reviews every single checklist. She lives in Half Moon Bay, and you'll hear from her once in a while, because I hear from her once in a while. I make mistakes. My photographs, I get sparrows wrong all the time. So I definitely hear from the people that do photograph reviews. So, okay, what else can you tell the scientists? Well, you can give them photographs. Now, these are all great blue herons, obviously, but these were all taken in completely different places in North America. And yes, we all know they're great blue herons, or maybe you don't, I don't know, but they are all valuable to scientists. Scientists want to know what they were doing at the time. Were they fishing? Were they courting? The two ones that are a pair were on a nest. They'd like to know if they're male, female, ages. So you can tell them more things. You can do this when you submit, and you can put in details about the birds, or you don't have to. You can just tell them it was a great blue heron. And you're not alone. So as of the 20th of this month, there were over 500,000 eBirders in the world, and there were 43 million checklists. A checklist is what we were just talking about, putting in one and hitting submit. That's checklist. So I've put in 2 checklists today, and I found out something really cool this year. So there's a thing called yard checklists, and this is so important. It's just like kept me busy because you can tell I'm kind of need to be doing things. And you can specify a checklist for your yard, you can specify your yard as a special place. And every time you submit to your yard, it keeps your life list for your yard, eBird will. So that's pretty cool. And so I try to submit one every day for my yard. And that way I can go back in then and it shows me what birds should be in my yard at any time of the year. I don't know, I think that's cool. But anyways, this is the breakdown of where the checklist leaders are. No surprise, since the United States, well, we're bigger, and this is where it's eBird started. Just talk about Merlin ID a little bit. Identification.
If you've ever wondered, what is that bird? Let Merlin help you unlock the mystery. Merlin is a new app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. It makes bird identification easier by showing you the birds in your own area that match what you've seen. Merlin asks you a few simple questions. When and where did you see the bird? What did it look like? And what was it doing? Almost like magic, Merlin shows you the most likely species for your area on that day. But these aren't wild guesses. Merlin knows which birds are near you by tapping into eBird, a database with millions of sightings from birders around the world. It finds out which species you're most likely to encounter and tailors results for your location. Browse Merlin's short list of photos to find your match. Once you know the name of the bird you've seen, a whole new world opens up. Listen to sounds. Learn more about where the species lives. Tell your friends about your new bird. Then, go find another bird to identify. Merlin helps you to explore the most.
So Merlin ID is an app that's absolutely invaluable in the field, and I highly recommend, even if you don't use eBird in the field, I recommend using Merlin ID. To me, it's just taken over the carrying around a book. I used it this morning to figure out that that was a vireo in my friend's tree. So please consider getting Merlin ID and taking a look at it. And the resources list also includes a tutorial on Merlin ID. I want to go through this cycle of life, this eBird cycle of life with you. So here we go. If you're going to a birding at a known hotspot, now that's an area in the world that eBird and Cornell have decided a lot of birds have been seen or at least reported. And they have designated it as a hotspot. So you start a checklist when you get there. You don't have to know it's a hotspot ahead of time. When you get there, you open up eBird, the app, and you say, start a checklist, and it asks you if you want to know whether there's a hotspot nearby. Or you can just say, tell me on the map where I am, and just start it based on latitude and longitude. You don't have to know anything. You just have to push a little button. So, but you get used to wanting to know where the hotspots are. Trust me, it's addictive. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so you go to this place, you see a bird. You see a bird. You use Merlin to identify the bird. It's a violet green swallow. you add that bird to the checklist via eBird app in the field. You submit the checklist when you're done to the scientists, right? You put the photograph into the checklist, and the photograph in the checklist gets submitted up to Merlin ID, because what's happening is my photograph of that violet green swallow that I took, that I put in the checklist, is then used in the Merlin ID app for other people to identify the violet green swallow. You see, it's the citizen scientists' photos that are being used in Merlin ID as identifiers. It's a big circle. So the more photographs we submit with our checklists, the more birds that are going to be identified with the Merlin ID app. It's a big circle. So take pictures. All right, so now I'm going to show you the big reason to submit data, and I warn you, this is where it gets really addictive for anybody who's a big data geek like I am. The abundance animation, the data visualization, observation stuff. So what this is the accumulation of eBird citizen science data. And this is what they did with all of our data. I'm gonna roll this up. Here we go. All right, this is what happens with the data. These are the hooded orioles going through the year, moving from the south to the north. I'm gonna do another one, I think. This area is called the ebird.org/science/status-and-trends area. And I think one of the other really cool ones was the barn swallow. So I'll show you one more, but without worldwide data, which they can't get without all of us, because like we're super important. This is the barn swallow. Through where it goes through the year. Come on, is every birding geek just smiling at this moment? I mean, how could you not? Look at that. Anyways, that's really, I think, of all the things that they've done that I've seen Cornell do with the data that we all provide through eBird, I think that's just the most marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. So that's the abundance animation. Okay, now I want to show you one other thing that's to do. Okay, I'm going to read the chats because this is too much fun to see what you guys have to say about this stuff, right? All right, Merlin's free. Yes, Merlin's free. We can talk about eBird rare alerts in a minute. Does the map include non-Americas? So eBird is worldwide, and the it's all worldwide. So the whole thing, yes. How do I take those pictures? Do you mean the picture of the white-breasted nuthatch, or do you mean, or the great blue herons? Yes. Cool. Let's see. Let's go on. Hotspots. Back. Here's the stuff that I get addicted about. This is the front page of eBird. When my family and I decided to go to India because my sister-in-law was living there in 2015, we knew we were going to Mumbai, but we decided we wanted to go birding while we were there. So I went on to eBird and I said, I went to this map. Now I know this looks a little overwhelming, but what this is beneath this, all you see are colors and things, but you know, it's a color map, right? It's like red is where the most of the species are. So red is where, red down to lighter yellow. These are hotspots, and what it says is where you see the bright reds are, that's where the most species of birds are seen by eBirders. And I'm going to zoom in a little closer. And now what we're looking at is we're getting closer and closer to knowing. So what I did is I looked at the map of India. I had no idea how big India was. I was like really, very naive. Actually, I guess ignorant is the right word. I really had no idea. But I knew we were going from Mumbai. I knew we were going to Jaipur. I knew we were going to the Taj Mahal. Okay, I knew these things. And I said, oh, what's this big red dot right here in the middle next to where the Taj Mahal is? That red dot right there. Because this is, I'm circling, if people can see, the Agra is where the Taj Mahal is. That red dot right there is in a place at Bharatapur where they've seen 384 species of birds. And that's what a hotspot is. And that place has an inn right outside the front door called Birders Inn. And it's a sanctuary area, it's a bird sanctuary area where there's all of these men, unfortunately it's all men, but it's always men, there, and on three-wheel bicycles. And you literally meet them at the front gate and they take you, and they're masters of birding. They know exactly what all the birds are. And in 2.5 hours, I saw 83 species of birds I'd never seen before. I think I saw 120 species of birds, 83 that I'd never seen before. And it was marvelous. And the way this works is you go here, you click on view details, and I can tell you that my network just slowed down, or eBird's network. Okay, I can tell you that on March 18th, I'm geeking you out here on what eBird can do, but this is the addictive stuff, that on March 18th, this lovely person whose last name is Doward saw a Eurasian collared dove, but they also saw a black kite and a green bee eater. I saw a green bee eater there. And all these bulbuls, which are beautiful birds, in that spot. And I will show you one more thing. Person's probably a guide there. You can see that they're, and then they have this thing called the illustrated checklist. An illustrated checklist we can do for here, you can do for your yards, and you can see over the course in this one hotspot, you can see when these birds are supposed to be there. Any bird. You can enter any species and you can just see any bird and when it's supposed to be there. And this is invaluable when you're actually going to look for a certain species. So this is so we were hoping to be in Sweden this week. I hope everybody's safe there, but we're not there, bird watching. And we planned our trip around when birds were supposed to be in the area we were going to go on a guided trip. And we used this checklist, this type of checklist to figure out. Anyways, that's the totally geek out way of what hotspots are all about. So I'd like to end this part. There's lots of questions if you want, but by always having this tool with you, this app, or if you use it at home, but use it in the field because it's a lot of fun. You're always giving scientists a way to protect declining populations, to look at what's happening with birds. Are they endangered? Are they moving? Why are they moving? It's just so much information for scientists and so much fun for you. Something you can do all your lives, something you can back up the information you had before, go forward with, share with people. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And that's my talk, and that's who I am today, who I am these days. So thank you.
Great. Can I just add that we have had other volunteers use eBird, but we've also had people who have been really interested in data science compile eBird information and share it with us. So there's way too much information on eBird for even the scientists, all the scientists, to be able to parse through. So even if your interest is in data and less so in birding, there's a lot for you to play around with, and we're always interested to hear about things. So it was a volunteer who told us, you know, he went through the South Bay eBird and figured out that Coyote Creek field station actually had the most number of species. At that time, I don't know if it's changed, but it's definitely in the top 3. So it was really cool to get that. And it doesn't have to be just finding birds in the field, but it can be data analysis, suggestions, and you know, citizen science that way.
Judy, you wanted to know if I choose a specific camera lens to take pictures based on a hotspot area? No, I have one lens. I literally carry a 75 by 300 millimeter and an iPhone. So I have 2, I guess I have 2 lenses. What if you have no data in the field? Can you add to eBird later? Yes. So there are times when I'm just having a lovely stroll out in the field, and I know I've seen a couple of birds. When I get back home, I will do a thing called an incomplete report. So eBird you don't have to report everything you see. You can actually go back home and say, oh, I know I saw a red-tailed hawk. I know I saw a bazillion other things, but I know I saw a beautiful hawk. I'm going to report just that hawk, and I'm going to tell the scientists it was an incomplete report. Now, there's 2 things about that. They don't use that report for all of their data because they don't really care. They want to know everything you saw. But there are some things they use that for, but they're not using it for everything. So there's good and bads about doing that. The other thing is, I'm going to tell you, there are some people who use X's. So for example, if you see a big, huge group of shorebirds and you don't want to try and estimate how many you see in that group, some people use an X, which just says a lot. Well, I've done a lot of reading about this, and what they would rather you do is tell them that there's 10, 100, 1,000, or 1,000,000. They'd rather you take a good shot at it, because by putting an X, they actually don't count that data. Because they don't know what magnitude you're talking about. So take a shot at it. And reading up on how to estimate, you know, the best way to estimate, you know, take a group of 10 in your head and go, or take 100 in your head and estimate. So, but they don't count the X. Oh, I like the turn. Who just put the turn up behind their head? Oh, now the game is on. All right, game is on. There's my turn's going up behind me. All right. Can you add photos after you submit the checklist? Actually, they've set it up now that you have to add photos after you submit the checklist. So you do the checklist, and then you add the media after. So I don't know. That's a pretty recent change. So yes, you don't have to actually add the photos at the same time. It gets complicated if you're trying to do that. There's my turn. Dwight said, I've submitted all my bird observations on iNaturalist. Is there an easy way to port those over to eBird? And I don't know the answer to that, but I would sure be surprised if somebody didn't figure out a spreadsheet connection, because I know you can use a spreadsheet to download things into eBird. So, and then Deldy just said, wait, did you just say that adding photos is required? No, I did not say it was required. It's not required. Definitely not. And Hannah's telling me that there is no easy way to go from iNaturalist to eBird.
So the question from earlier about the rare bird alert, so that was also from Dwight, I believe, and he said, this morning I got an eBird rare bird alert for a common goldeneye for Alviso Marina Park. Why? It doesn't seem to be rare.
Well, so I have a real problem with these rare bird alerts that are coming out right now. So I'm pretty obsessed with birding, and I'm trying to do this shelter in place, and these rare bird alerts go out countrywide. I don't know if they go worldwide, but they go countrywide. I don't know if you guys know what they are, but San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, eBird automatically sends out confirmed or unconfirmed rare bird alerts. Like, for example, I saw the green-winged teal Eurasian version yesterday, and I took a photo of it, so it went out as a rare bird alert confirmed under my name yesterday. And I know people who live further than 5-mile radius from that spot went and saw it yesterday. I think they should stop during this time frame, and I sent them emails about that, but not happening. So the goldeneye, back to the goldeneye, stop venting here. It's because that bird isn't supposed to be here now. So it would be rare. Sometimes it's rare just because it isn't supposed to be here this week, not because it's not supposed to be here ever. So sometimes that's what happens. So that would be my understanding. And Becky just found the free eBird class on All About Birds. Becky, that is Cornell, and that's exactly what I've got in my resources, and you found, so well done. That's exactly what will show up in the resource list. So it's a free eBird class, and it's on the allaboutbirds.org. Allaboutbirds.org is Cornell, and it is an amazing website. It has everything you ever wanted to know. Whenever you search for a type of bird on Google, allaboutbirds.org tends to come up first. That's Cornell, and that information, so much of that is because of what citizen scientists do. So, yeah. Let's see if there's any other questions. Now's your chance.
So Terry asked, I've been using the Audubon app on my phone. Can I migrate that data to eBird?
So I would expect not. I was using National Geographic and it died, the Life List lists app, and I had to re-enter everything. And I missed my National Geographic app because it had beautiful pictures next to it, but now I have my own pictures, but still, it's not the same. So yeah, you gotta kind of pick one, and I can show you that eBird's got a long way to go when it comes to what the Life List actually looks like. It's not, they haven't quite got it, it's not as pretty as it should be yet. So, but, you know, not everything's perfect yet there. Do you want to go ahead, Serena, if there's any more? You can.
So Lisa asked, will eBird let you put in data for an area not considered a hotspot?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. So you can go by, you can create one for your front yard like I have. You can create one, for anywhere in the world. You can create one based on latitude and longitude, and you can create one and name it. Like I named one for my front yard, I named one for my cottage, my parents' cottage. But you know, you can, yeah, anywhere you want in the world. Just going by hotspots works well because that's where other information is, so you know what birds are supposed to be there. So yeah, just makes it easier. The Bay Area is full of hotspots. I mean, this is one of the places people come from all over the world, as many of you know, and SFBBO knows well. But yeah, you can do it. If you want, if anybody wants to stick around, I can share my screen. Do people want to stick around? I mean, you could. We'll watch how many participants drop off. So,
and while you're doing that, Chris earlier asked if the map includes the non-Americas, like New Zealand. So I think they were asking specifically about those migration animations and if those were available.
Now I don't know. So they started with North American birds, and the guy's name is Tom Auer, and he was really excited. He added a few non-native North American birds recently, and I don't know where he started outside of North America. So I don't know how far he's gotten. It has a lot to do with, you know, how much data they've got. So I've got to believe that Colombia and Peru are going to be soon. So anyways, this is what my very short life list looks like.
So Barbara, I was just going to say thank you to people who need to hop off because it's about 6 o'clock right now. And thanks for everybody for participating, but definitely stick around if you want to explore Barbara's checklist more. And just to remind you that next Thursday, we're going to have another birdie hour with Dr. Dan Wenny talking about what are birds good for anyway. So Barbara, back to you.
Thanks, Iwe. Yeah, thanks for everybody for coming. It's really great. Okay, so the reason this list, Iwe, is so short is I've never been to South America. I mean, if I went to South America, this would like be much bigger. So, but it's crazy.
Yeah, or
Anyway.
East Africa. And I also just want to
Yes.
say I'm allowing people to unmute themselves now that we have fewer people. So if people want to talk to Barbara, you can either chat or unmute yourselves.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the way it works. So I can see myself by county, which is kind of cool, and I can see my month date and year dates and life dates for each county and where I've traveled. You can really see what month looks like and year looks like this year compared to other years. But yeah, so that's how the life list, but this is where they need to really work on it, is that it doesn't show up. So if I go back in time, right from the very beginning, so the first set of birds I ever started recording was in Hawaii at Kilauea Point, which is where the just some of the beautiful birds are up there. And I can remember exactly where I was. And I can remember seeing those birds there. So I think that's one of the neat things about birding, right? Is you record everything so that you have a better memory of it in years to come. So, yep. And I've been back to all those places. And oh, remember this one, guys? The old burrowing owls. Oh, look, it says burrowing old site. That's funny. But burrowing owl site, you know where that was? That's right at the soccer fields at Google. You know, where is that? It's where I worked when I first moved here. It's where the Google plowed over the soccer fields, put soccer fields on. Anyways, I remember seeing the burrowing owls there. 6 babies. It's the first time I'd ever seen an owl on the ground. So anyways, so that's what the life lists look like. And then you can just click on any of them and see all the times you've seen that bird and where you've seen them. And these are all the hot spots I've seen a pied-billed grebe on. So I've seen pied-billed grebes 62 times, or recorded them at least. That's a pretty neat set of stats to be able to get your hands on. That's the window I wanted to
There's
show.
the window. Okay. Yeah.
There's the window. This is the burrowing owl old site. This is the one. The old location. The burrowing owl old location. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yes. What is the window? Do you want to read it to me? That'd be great.
Al asked, is there a way to make notes like saw in cottonwood tree high up at, as an
Yes.
example?
Yes. You can make detailed notes right in the messages, right in the submissions. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to take pictures of these birds. I was in a forest with old growth trees, and there were marble murrelets in there, and I could not photograph them. So what do I do?
You report them as having seen them, and then if they don't believe you, they keep them on your list and they don't put them into theirs. So they would never take a bird out of your list, meaning that when you go in to look at your life list and you go in to look at your list, everything you report will always be in your list. So, but it's their choice as to whether they take it and put it into their lists or not. Do you see what I mean, John?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
And if I can chime in really quick, you can also add a really detailed description of the bird too, and that can
Yes.
sometimes help confirm that that was what you saw.
Of course, you're absolutely right, Serena. They expect you to detail field marks and location. And the other thing is, if you're in a place where it's been seen before, you know, or it was seen last year at this time, of course, that's a big part of it too, right? And that's, you can check that by logging into eBird and seeing whether it's been seen there before.
So it was in old growth redwood tree, old growth Douglas fir. Had a small nest in the lichen area, and was feeding its baby, single baby, by flying to the ocean and coming back.
That's so cool. That's
It was,
so cool.
it was actually quite cool. It seemed, you know, sometimes you know that species are going to go extinct, and you kind of understand why.
Yeah. Somebody asked, can you upload audio recordings from iPhone? I did it today. I did it today. So it was the first time I actually tried to do it exactly from the iPhone, and I did. So, yes.
Hi, this is Robin Leal. Can you hear me?
Yes, Robin.
As far as what he was talking about, I can't remember his name.
John?
There's a place there that you can record all the breeding information to. That's very important. And you don't have to have a picture. By the way, I'm a Solano County.
Solano County, yeah.
So what happens is if your sighting is within the window, they will probably accept it in the location that you're in without a picture. But the best thing to do is to write up the information. There's a place where you can say female, male, what you saw, eggs, you saw whatever, and the activity, you know.
Yep.
As Barbara said, you write down all the notes that you took about that bird to make it more convincing.
Yep. Yeah, and I even found out the other day that they want to know habitat too. They don't want to just know about the bird anymore. They now want to know who else was around it, and you know what was going on, not just the bird but the area. So that was new news to me. I didn't know that. Like, so even if I don't get a picture of the bird, they'd love a picture of the area. So that was interesting. Anyways, I'm just lucky that my neighbor has Western tanagers for the first time ever across the street. So yeah.
Well, in fact, that's very important, what you just said. If you're in private property and you don't want to tell people where you are in private property, you should note that. And because otherwise, other people will be searching for a very rare bird or want to see what you just saw, like the murrelet. And you don't want to put a lot of people in an area that they shouldn't be.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Barbara, do you know if there's a way, so for example, if you see an endangered or threatened species, like if we saw snowy plovers breeding, we wouldn't publicize that fact or where they are, but maybe, you know, a few months later it'd be okay. So is there a way to embargo your data so that it doesn't come up publicly for a few months?
Well, there's a couple of things. eBird has a list of birds that they don't publicize, that they don't let go public. Like the Western tanager that I reported seeing here, which was considered rare, that was just last week, never showed up publicly. Like I can see it on my list, but it's not public. Like you can't see it on San Mateo County. So as far as I know, now they may have released it by now, but they did not in the first couple of days. Though I understand that there's a list of about 83, 85 birds that you will never see. So, and I believe burrowing owls are one of those. So there, and then the other thing is they tell us to do is they always tell us to offset, and you'll still see people do this, offset. So they'll do a latitude and longitude, and they'll say this is offset from where we saw it. So yeah, there are ways, but they do tell you to offset it. So that's why people use latitude and longitude instead of the hot spots sometimes. So.
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming, and thanks to Barbara for your presentation. And hopefully you'll come back next week or in a couple weeks. Max will actually give an example of how we've used eBird for some of our science work. So have a great evening, everyone, and a good Earth Day, Earth Week, and we'll see you soon.